You are watching Weather Unfiltered. So glad you could join us. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. Of course, we are here with our hurricane expert, Dr. Nab. He's been talking about the end of September and how things start to change. Tropics rumbling to life. And there are things we really need to watch.
Yeah, we've got a couple of systems that one or both of them could develop, and it is going to be a complicated forecast that you're going to be needing to tune in every day for the next several days until things get a little more in focus. But there are things we do know already that we will outline for you over the next few days.
For sure. What you see behind us here, we've got Hurricane Gabrielle. It's exiting out into the North Atlantic. We've got Invest 93L and 94L. Those are the troublemakers.
Absolutely. And they're both tropical waves that left Africa just a few days behind the wave that led to Gabrielle. These are always the troublemakers, but these are going farther west and will have more possibilities for land impact than Gabrielle did.
All right, so that's the trouble on the ocean, trouble on land as well. We've got torcons as high as 5 today across parts of the plains into the mid-south. Arkansas, we've got torcons of 5 from Fayetteville to Fort Smith.
You know, you think about it, we've gone through a really long break here. We're not talking a whole lot about severe weather. It's been real hit and miss for months now, but now we're trending toward what we call second season, and this is the result, unfortunately.
Isn't it amazing how we feel like we're getting into the second part of hurricane season, almost a second season after that lull, the second severe season, and ironically, the same upper-level system that's going to cause this tornado threat is also going to impact where Invest 94L goes relative to the East Coast.
There you have it. It's all connected. Now, all modes of severe weather on the table. Hail, one of the hazards that folks hours because these storms are not stopping once the sun goes down. Into tonight, this does include the overnight hours. Those torcons in that 3 to 5 range across sections of Arkansas, closing in on the Little Rock area. So things to remember when it comes to tornado safety at night. Prepare your safe room. Have everything you need already there. So if the alert goes, you're not looking for everything and you're out of it because you just woke up. You want to communicate with the family about the threat and about where the safe spot is. So if everybody's weather radios or apps start going off, now's the time to move. Make sure it's agreed upon where the safe spot is. Turn on that weather radio. Make sure those mobile alerts are switched to the on position because warnings are going to do you no good if you don't have a way to get them. We've got the thunderstorms, of course, out there now across the northern and western part of the state of Arkansas. Little Rock sitting pretty currently, 90 degrees with a mix of sun and clouds. Obviously, the heat, the moisture that we've got will help to fuel our thunderstorms later into the overnight. So these storms start to arrive, start to close in on Little Rock by the late evening hours. Here, 10, 11, midnight. You can see the storms starting to go. Could still be dealing with some of those thunderstorms, especially on the south side by the time we get into the very early morning hours. So here's what. 4, 5, 6 a.m. South Little Rock area south on the interstate could still be getting in on some big time thunderstorms. Now by 9 o'clock, by bus stop pickup time, even 7, 8, 9, I think things are calming, but I don't think things are totally clear. So there still could be some shower action out there. Nashville, you're going to be a spot that it's not necessarily the overnight, those peak sleeping hours, but it is going to be early tomorrow morning that the thunderstorms start to roll in. You'll see some rain showers likely during the late evening and overnight, but here we go with thunderstorms right around 6 o'clock. So I'd say between 5 and 7, that early part of the morning commute, early part of bus stop pickups. That's what you could see some of those storms rolling through with some gusty winds. And how about Dallas? 96 degrees here in late September. Obviously, again, that heat going to help to fuel our thunderstorms. Dallas, you're going to be looking at those storms starting to work in by late evening. Hail and gusty winds most likely for this area because you can see that line starting to set up. So I don't think we're as worried about tornadoes here. It's going to be, a bigger cluster or complex, but very heavy rain could also cause some troubles in the metro area. Mike?
All right, Alex, thank you. We'll talk a lot.
Particular that could be closing in on the U.S. that we've got to watch really from the southeast to the mid-Atlantic northward.
Yeah, and as you and I have talked at length about the systems that take longer to develop and stay farther south and west and then develop on our doorstep can ultimately end up having the greatest impact. So with our westernmost tropical wave, it's going to move around the subtropical ridge, and there's a weakness in the western Atlantic that Gabrielle moved around, and we know we've had troughing in the eastern U.S. for weeks and weeks.
This has been the story of the tropical season. Those fronts that have laid down, but also the troughs helping us to deflect storms like Aaron or Gabrielle. But this one, this could take a slightly different path.
Yeah, and how much will it be steered versus how much will it be sheared, and how it will interact with that trough is something the models don't have a good handle on,
they do not.
especially because, number one, it hasn't formed into a depression or storm yet. And number two, it's many days away. This is next Monday. The previous run of the Euro had it going in North Carolina. The current run does not bring it as far north and maybe never makes landfall in the continental U.S. And that trough pattern is the reason why. Now, watch the colors of the low-level spin of both of our tropical waves. And you see the first one farther east developing sooner. This has land interaction, the upper level low. But here's our trough producing the severe weather, and a pattern we've seen for a long time. Let's take this all the way into next Sunday and Monday, because you get two systems developing, and then you've got the trough in the east. In this particular case, you get a ridge build north of that cutoff low, and this doesn't make a whole lot of northern headway.
Is there any possibility that the second one could be a problem for us? Is it really just looking like the first one's the one to watch?
The first one is the more likely one, but when you have two systems interacting with one another over the long haul, could we have a repeat of like a Hurricane Jeanne or an Henri where the track was pointed away from the ocean? I mean, it was out to sea and then it comes back. But this is all of the possibilities from the Euro model valid next Monday. This is where the main model run is. But look at some of the lows are over by southern Florida. Some are way to the northeast. Some are all the way up by North Carolina. You think, well, if the main run is here, how could any possibility of a run being out there? Well, all we have to do is look at the previous run. You don't just look at the latest run of a modeling system. Look at the different model runs that have been recent. And it's pretty much the same until we get to the end of the week. And then here's that trough pattern. Now, the previous run, it kind of gets caught south of the ridge that's north of this cutoff low. But in this case, that trough pulls it northward before that ridge builds in, so it gets stuck over North Carolina instead of getting stuck near the northwestern Bahamas.
Looks like not an overwhelmingly strong storm, but we can't rule out any really intensity either at this point.
Absolutely not, because those are just two possibilities. There are a lot of intensity possibilities. So I still
love to live and die by these models, the single runs.
Yes, I still want everybody along the East Coast to have their hurricane plan in place because you can't rule that out. Now, what about the GFS? You know, we have percentages on these. These are not 100% chance of developing. The GFS favors the eastern one, and they're close enough that there's a little bit of a Fujiwara that kills off the 94 wave, and it gets absorbed into 93. So that particular scenario would be bad for Bermuda. But let's pick up the story from the Euro, because if this particular model run is right, it could get affected by both systems. So there's so many possibilities. In any case, if we got a big hurricane middle to late next week sitting west of Bermuda, we've got another Aaron situation with surf and rip currents.
I was going to say, this feels like a very, very complicated setup, given just what's going on in the atmosphere and also having these two systems close together.
But we know enough to know the East Coast is not off the hook from a hurricane direct impact.
You heard it here. All right, Mike, over to you.
All right. Also following severe weather for you this evening.
With Wednesday's severe risk, not going to be an issue in Washington, D.C. You're going to be more of an end-of-the-week story. Thursday night, you've got some hit-or-miss thunderstorms ending early. But this is the guilty party, as let's think of it in SVU terms. Jet stream diving south through the central part of the U.S. That's going to help to draw in some moisture. Tons of it in the Gulf. We know the Gulf is like, take some off my hands. I've got so much to work with. So that gets pulled northward. And with our front providing lift, now we've got what we need to get not just thunderstorms and rain, but some higher-end thunderstorms, some severe thunderstorms a possibility. Tomorrow, it's going to be the lowest end risk of severe weather, but I do think across the board in this area shaded in red, we'll see at least, scattered severe thunderstorms. So looking at the Ohio Valley, even the southern and western parts of the Northeast, all the way down to the Gulf Coast of Texas, South Texas included. And we're starting the day with the showers and thunderstorms. You can see the wet weather's out there from San Angelo to Dallas at 7 a.m. So not going to be the easiest commute for you, especially the earlier part of the commute in the DFW area. Midday, we've got thunderstorms from parts of Tennessee and northern Mississippi back into Louisiana, and a lot still underway in the state of Texas. By Wednesday evening, parts of the Ohio Valley seeing the storms, eastern Tennessee, rain and thunderstorms. That'll extend into western North Carolina. And by late Wednesday, also starting to affect portions of northern Alabama, North Georgia, which will continue into the overnight and morning morning hours of our Thursday. So Thursday could be a little soggy with scattered rain showers across sections of the southeast. Now tomorrow into Thursday, that rain potential is going to bring at least the opportunity for some flash flooding. I think better chances as we get up into terrain. So northern Alabama, middle and eastern parts of Tennessee, up through Kentucky, West Virginia, and southwest Virginia. Now, Birmingham, Alabama, you've got a good opportunity for thunderstorms on Wednesday afternoon. Yet again on Thursday, I think it'll be spotty in nature, but they're going to be out there. So you open up the radar app and you're going to see the thunderstorms out there. By Friday, low-end chance of thunderstorms. I think anything we see is going to be isolated at best, with temperatures going from low 90s on Wednesday to the mid-80s Thursday and Friday. Mike?
All right.
Here with Mike Bettis and, of course, Dr. Nab. But parts of the Mid-South tonight really active, and it doesn't shut off when the sun goes down. This is going to be an overnight threat.
No, we've got a lot of instability in the atmosphere right now. Torcon as high as a 5, so medium risk for tornadoes tonight. And also some really big hail, some big winds are happening as well. So we're right back into severe mode here across some of our vulnerable states. So we'll take you now to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we right now a lot of different places.
Yeah, and you mentioned that flood risk. You can see there's a lot of zones where we've got, more elevated chance of seeing some flash flooding. So anybody in the light green color could see localized flash flooding, but where we've got that darker green, little better opportunities. So especially if you're out overnight or real early tomorrow morning when it's still kind of, we're not at daylight yet. Even when the sun starts to go up, be careful, be aware that there may be some water-covered roadways. There's a lot of atmospheric moisture here across the region. We've already got flash flood warnings in a lot of these areas from southern Missouri into northwest Arkansas. You can see they're already patchworked in, and we think things are only going to continue here as we move through the rest of the evening and overnight. And Little Rock will be a spot to watch. Of course, these metro areas even more vulnerable to flash flooding because we've got so much pavement and parking lot and highway and building, so you get a lot more runoff. You don't have those, massive grassy areas that are going to absorb rainfall like you do out towards the suburbs or into the more, open spaces. Here's the evening. We've got heavy rain working in, and it's not just tonight. Notice into the early morning hours, persistent at times, very heavy rain is going to stick with us. So it could be a few hours in Little Rock by tomorrow morning. You notice areas around 5:30. That's where we've got some of the heaviest rain. And again, could still be looking at thunderstorms. I think tomorrow's morning drive is going to be drier. There could still be, some scattered or hit or miss showers and thunderstorms out there, but I really think the bulk of the activity coming later tonight into the very early morning hours of Wednesday. So perhaps some good news, but that could still bring standing water early tomorrow morning for the drive. Dallas, you're also going to be watching for storms a little later. It has put some massive cities across parts of China in particular, not just Chinese cities. We've got Hong Kong, of course. They're dealing with issues. They're going to see some of the worst surge here in the coming hours as the storm passes off to their south. Now, not going to make landfall here in Hong Kong. There's some good news, but obviously there is wind and there will be surge issues. Of course, Philippines down here where we saw some of the most significant effects from the storm as it hit as an equivalent Category 5 hurricane. Mike?
Hello. This for another hour of Weather Unfiltered. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. Of course, we are here with our hurricane expert, Dr. Nab. As expected, tropics have come alive, and we've got something that may at least give us a headache in forecasting it, but may affect the U.S.
Yeah, there is a possibility that Invest 94L could actually make landfall somewhere on the east coast of the U.S. Or it could meander around close to the coast and give us fits because it might look like it's going out to sea and then it might start to trend back. So we are going to absolutely have to dedicate ourselves to tuning in on a daily basis to see what has changed as we get closer, because we're still several days out from a potential direct impact.
All right, Dr. Nab is going to have some real specific details on what could be happening with both of those systems. So you want to stay tuned for that. The other thing we're watching tonight is severe weather.
Yeah, we've got torcons in that 3 to 5 range across parts of especially Arkansas and northeast Oklahoma. So that I-49 corridor, things have been rocky. In addition to that, we've got flash flooding.
Yeah, so we are getting into that second severe season as it feels like we're getting into our second hurricane season this year. And the severe weather and the hurricanes are connected because the same trough producing this tornado risk is going to be a major player in where Invest 94L ultimately goes.
So stay tuned for info on that. Right now, let's take you live to Van Buren. If you're out there overnight into tomorrow morning, you may encounter some areas where water covers the roadways, or some of those small creeks and streams may at the very least be running high and running very fast. Well, into tonight, we've got, again, torcons in that 3 to 5 range. So as expected, we've seen some watches posted. We've seen warnings, both severe and tornado warnings. And got to think about this into the overnight, because this is not a threat that stops here in the next hour or two. It's one that's going to be sticking with us through the sleeping hours. So have that safe spot. Whatever area in your home is your safe designated spot, have whatever you need in there. Water, helmets, shoes, should your home be damaged, and communicate with your family where the spot is. And if we get the alerts, all right, everybody meets there, and who grabs the dog and who gets the cat. These are the things you want to talk about now, rather than, in that haze of being woken up in the middle of the night trying to do it at 2 o'clock in the morning. Also, turn on your NOAA weather radio and your mobile alerts. They don't work, the warnings, if you don't have a way to get them. So that's really that should probably be number one on that graphic. Have the way to get the warnings when folks are sleeping, even more vulnerable to severe weather. Right now, no tornado warnings, but we've got plenty of the severe warnings. We've also got all of those flash flood warnings. Now, Little Rock, you have been dry here through the afternoon and now into the early evening. Little Rock's currently 89 degrees, so it's been hot there in places across the Mid-South and the Southern Plains. That's going to help to fuel our thunderstorms, keep them going later this evening into the overnight. It's not just storms, but persistent heavy rain. I think we could see a few hours of heavy rain potential, and that could leave some flash flood issues. We've already seen it farther off to the north and west in the state, so no reason to believe that that's going to stop, here in the short term. Nashville, you've got some rain off to your west, currently sitting at 80 degrees with a mix of sun and clouds. Obviously, future radar didn't pick up on that too well. I think we will see some showers out there this evening, but more showers and possibly some thunderstorms into tomorrow morning. So early part of the morning commute on Wednesday, that's going to be the time to watch, for windshield wipers on. Maybe if the kids are getting picked up at like 6:37 for the bus stop. 96 in Dallas right now. Yikes, it is hot. Up to the north, though, closer to Gainesville and along I-35, we've got some severe storms. Those storms advancing closer to the Dallas area here by the later evening. So 10, 11, 12. I think wind and hail would be the primary threats for the DFW area. Mike?
Alex, thank you.
Pepe Sylvia, but in our case, it's what's 93L going to do? What's 94L going to do? How are they going to affect each other? And what everything else is going on is going to affect them.
Yeah, I'm tempted to go home tonight and set up 2 big chalkboards with a bunch of Post-it notes talking about the various suspects and players in both mysteries here to try to sort out what's going to happen.
And I bet they'll all overlap, too.
Yes, they're interacting. They are very much related. So it would be hard enough to forecast where our western tropical wave is going to go, 94, given the upper level low it has to contend with, the land interaction, the upper level troughing over the eastern U.S., and what its track and intensity ultimately are going to be. But when you throw in the fact that we've got another tropical wave, 93, right on its heels, and they might interact, wow, the forecast gets tough.
This is a really complicated one, because even the models are like, we're not sure. Between 2 model runs of reliable models, we're seeing huge spread.
So that would mean, not only the Bahamas, but Florida up to North Carolina, even all the way up the East Coast has to watch this in case it gets taken farther to the north. But we can understand why the models are disagreeing in the ways that they are when we look at the upper level pattern. The upper level trough that's producing the severe weather risk tonight is definitely going to play a role in where 94L, the western one, goes. Now, next couple of days, it has a lot of wind shear and land interaction. So I think 93 and farther east has a better chance, especially the way it's looking tonight, to develop more quickly. But it might go slowly, gets trapped underneath the Bermuda Ridge, and it'll be around for a while. So the suspense on what's going to happen with 94 to the west is a little more difficult to sort out, because how much steering, how much shearing will it get once it gets over the Southwest Atlantic and starts to interact with that severe weather-making trough?
Right, and because you've said we also don't know the intensity of what this ends up being, how close it gets. It could be, anything from kind of a ragged system to we have to prepare for a hurricane.
Yep, and it could also be affected by the system to the east if they're close enough to do a little track interaction. But if it forms in this zone and the upper level high pressure forms, how fast does it go northward in between the trough to the west and the ridge to the east? In the latest Euro run, it doesn't move northward very quickly, but other possibilities in the Euro ensemble take it as far as North Carolina by Monday morning. You think, how is that possible? All you have to do is look at the previous Euro run that's about the same through the rest of this work week, but then that trough over the southeast carries it northward quickly Sunday and Monday.
And there's our friends in the Outer Banks sticking out the farthest east.
Yeah, so that's why it is very important not to assume that the very latest single model run that you look at is the way it's going to turn out. There could be a lot of shifting around with this forecast, and we don't even have a depression yet.
Exactly. Well, they've always told us what assuming does. Dr. Knapp, thank you. Mike, over to you.
Very well put, Alex. We know.
Decent bit of cloud cover. We'll see more, though, here in the coming days, along with those chances for rain showers and for thunderstorms. So Washington, D.C., your chances of thunderstorms going up Thursday night. Hit or miss thunderstorms Thursday, ending early on Thursday night. Temperatures in the 70s during the day on Thursday, upper 70s. Now, middle of the week, this is the responsible party. The culprit is a dip in the jet stream throughout the central and eastern part of the country. That's going to allow moisture to come on in. So courtesy of the Gulf of Mexico, it says, you know, you take some off my hands. It's like when your neighbors, they make, and I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes you want a pan of brownies, but you can't be trusted with a pan of brownies. So you make the pan, but then you give it away to your neighbors. So the Gulf, it's got tons of moisture, so it's able to, you know, give it to its neighbors. Texas, would you like some? Louisiana, you'd like some, and Mississippi would as well. I am that neighbor. I never say no. If you made a cake, if you made brownies, you want to get rid of it, call me. Cold front providing lift. So now we've got that warm, moist air lifting, and that's going to trigger the shower and thunderstorm development, some of which could be severe as early as tomorrow. So tomorrow, from parts of the Ohio Valley all the way down to South Texas, isolated severe thunderstorms likely. Starting in the morning, the thunderstorms are out there for the start of our day. Dallas to San Angelo could be really active. Midday, it's East Texas, parts of Mississippi, Tennessee, even up into the Ohio Valley. And tomorrow afternoon and evening, you see, the storms are just littered out there. So there's going to be a lot of areas that at some point in the day see the wet weather. Some very heavy rain possible, and some localized flash flooding will also be a possibility. So now we look into Thursday morning, western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, down around the Gulf Coast of both Texas and Louisiana, seeing some of that wet weather. That could, again, bring some flooding. Tomorrow into early Thursday, isolated flash flood threat. Anywhere you see that light shade of green, the darker shade of green, little better chance. So notice as we get up into terrain where we've got some more, rolling hills and mountains, parts of Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, western Virginia, as well as the state of West Virginia, got to watch for a little better chance of flash flooding. Mike?
I feel like I need to move to your night, and we've got a long way to go before we get to the weekend. A lot of weather between now and then. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. We got Dr. Knapp here. Also, all hands on deck to keep you up on what the weather's doing. We've also got Charles Peak out there. He's on the road showing us what's...
Places are getting heavy rain time and time again.
Yeah, we've got a lot of flash flood warnings already now. We've got more coming through tomorrow morning. You can see there's a decent likelihood of seeing flash flooding. Anywhere you see that darker shade of green, the lightest green, possibility of localized flash flooding. So already this has played out. This has, we've checked it. It has verified in the northwest part of the state of Arkansas. Now the Little Rock area would be one of the spots next in line to see some of those big rainfall rates and perhaps longer lasting rain showers and thunderstorms. So it's not going to be, just 15 minutes. It could be over a few hours. Last 6 hours, we've seen that moisture really on the increase here across sections of the Mid-South. So as those colors get into, the darker greens and the oranges, that tells us, all right, now we're starting to, amp up the moisture. And you can see all the flash flood warnings we have now. So they're following this area of thunderstorms that's not moving overwhelmingly fast. So when you get those, downpours over a prolonged period of time, you get the higher likelihood of the flash flood warning. Something else you do, you got a lot of pavement, you got a lot of roadways, you got a lot of buildings in Little Rock. That's also going to elevate the risk of flash flooding. So these urban areas can see a lot more runoff. And it's late tonight into the overnight hours that Little Rock sees repeated rounds of showers and thunderstorms. So again, heavy rainfall rates, not just out of one thunderstorm, but perhaps out of a few. And so over a period of time, you're just going to reach your bandwidth pretty quickly. Tomorrow morning, less rain, but not no rain. And of course, Dallas area, right now you're dry, but the thunderstorms are to the north. We've got the thunderstorms bringing the heavy rain and severe threats in your area a little later this evening and overnight.
Unfiltered rolls on. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson, of course, here with our hurricane expert, Dr. Nab. We've been waiting for the tropics to perk up, and as expected, here we are. We've got some systems worth watching, one of which could get interesting for us.
Yeah, and these two tropical waves, Invest 93 and 94L, I think next day or two or three are going to turn into two cones that are going to be in close proximity. And it's hard enough to forecast the track and intensity of a system that hasn't even developed into a depression yet. But when they could interact with one another, boy, do we have to stay updated with changes in the forecast.
All right, Dr. Nab is going to have all the details and we'll look at play out with both of those systems. We're also here stateside watching what's going on, especially in the Mid-South. Very active storms tonight.
Yeah, we've got Torcon values in that 3 to 5 range. So the risk of tornadoes present, but also very heavy rain, damaging winds, and even hail.
It feels like it's been a long time since spring, but for folks in this part of the country that had a very active severe weather and flood season back in the spring, they're like, doesn't feel like it was all that long ago. Really? A second severe season?
Yeah, I know we'd like that break to last as long as possible, but not in the cards for us now. Now, the Mid-South getting, more storms into the overnight as well. Our storm tracker, Charles. So if you can, these are the situations where you want to get off the roads, right? You don't want to be out there driving around through this mess that Charles is showing us. And then when it gets dark, yikes, it's a mess out there. 3 to 5, those are the Torcon values. So, that gets us into the territory where we see the tornado watches, where we have the warnings. We've seen both tornado and severe thunderstorm warnings out there today. And our storm threat continues east through the overnight. Now, Torcon values go down, but still the storm threat's out there. So tornado threat during the overnight. Some things to remember. Always better to just have the area ready to go. There's nothing worse than, getting woken up and then having to do some critical thinking. So get everything you need, your supplies, your helmets, your shoes, put it in that safe spot now. So if the alert starts going off at 2 a.m., you're not looking for everything. Also, make sure everybody's on the same page. Make sure everybody knows where that safe spot is. Who's getting the dog? Who's going to find the cat? Or who's got the cat in their room already? And we all meet in that safe spot once those warnings go in. Also, speaking of the warnings, have a way to get the warnings. The warnings do you no good if your alerts are turned off. So make sure your mobile alerts are on, or you've got that weather radio, whatever you need to get those warnings as they are issued. Right now, several severe thunderstorm warnings, as Mike was showing us, but we've got all the flash flood warnings as well. We've seen pretty persistent rain and heavy rain over a lot of these areas. So that has prompted the water issues that Charles is showing us and other communities are experiencing as well. Little Rock right now, 87 degrees. It is still very warm here after 7 p.m. That heat, of course, will continue to fuel our thunderstorms post-sunset. So we're going to keep those storms feisty as they make their way into the Little Rock area by late evening and then continuing through the overnight hours. So here's 10, 11, midnight. Now we're at 1, 2 o'clock. Still some heavy rain, strong thunderstorms around. And those will finally begin to drop south of the city by, I'd say, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Tomorrow's morning drive, 7 to 9. Generally drier than the overnight. However, you can see some hit or miss showers, maybe a few rumbles of thunder are out there. Nashville, 77 now. You've got some rain advancing in from the west, especially off to the south and west of town, south of I-40 and Dixon area. That's where we've got a little bit more in the way of moderate rain currently. Overnight, yeah, we'll see some showers, but I think the more significant stuff, the storms, will be out there during tomorrow's morning drive early. So better chances probably between 5 and 7 than there would be between 7 and 9. I think it's going to be an early morning commute thing for you guys. Dallas, you're still in the low 90s given the after 7 p.m. time frame. Thunderstorms, they'll be arriving by late evening and into the overnight. Here you can see 1, 2 a.m. still some thunderstorms to the north of town for the morning drive. They'll be sinking south right into our area. So we've got Gainesville at 4 or 5 o'clock, and then unfortunately 7 to 9 right around Dallas and Fort Worth, Mike.
All right, Alex, thank you for that. Turning our attention to the